Off Genty again, up the middle to the 30, gets to the outside, to the 40, to the 50, to the 40, to the 30, to the 20, 10, 5, touchdown, Ashton Genty. It's 20-0. 75 yards for Ashton Genty on the run.
Well, I've made my way up here into the radio booth inside Notre Dame Stadium, catching up with the voice and color analyst here of the Broncos. We've got Bob Behler, and we've got former Boise State offensive lineman Pete Cavender. Guys, thank you so much for letting me steal you away. I know you've got your broadcast to get ready for, but we had just heard the radio broadcast last season, Ashton Genty's 75-yard touchdown run in the conference championship game. How much has this offense changed since Genty left?
Well, he gained 2,600 yards last year and 29 rushing touchdowns, and a lot of those were 75 yards. So the running backs this year, there's been three guys that have pretty much, split the duties, and they all have different strengths. Sire Gaines, along with Malik Sherrod and Dylan Riley, they all do something a little bit different than one another. But I think when you look at the numbers, they're kind of comparable to Genty. They've done a nice job, but it also helps that 4 returning starters from the offensive line from our championship team last year are back.
Talk about Maddox and just the season that he's had, over 1,100 yards, 9 touchdowns, just 1 interception all season. What makes him so difficult to defend?
Well, I just think he's a smart player. He's played a lot, even though he's just a junior. He was projected as the Mount West preseason offensive player of the year. And he's just grown. And I think not having that security blanket of Ashton Genty behind him has kind of forced him to step up. And I think that's helped his confidence even. The thing for me, though, is he's kind of struggled at moments like against Oregon and against Penn State. And, of course, Notre Dame is a big animal just like those two teams are. And so it's going to be important for him to stay protected from that offensive line. If a bad play is happening, don't make it worse. Go and throw it away. Punting the ball is not the worst thing in the world. So he's just been very productive, smart with the football, and obviously getting the ball to his playmakers.
Well, sort of on the flip side of that, Notre Dame's offense absolutely cooking so far this season. C.J. Carr has had an incredible start to his career as a redshirt freshman. How do you like this matchup for the Broncos secondary up against C.J. Carr and these wide receivers?
Well, the secondary has had some struggles this year, except last week. They played really well against an Appalachian State team that came in throwing for almost 360 yards a game. They came in ranked 3rd in the country in passing yards, and they were held to 65. So the secondary had its best game of the season last week against Appalachian State. They had a couple of pick sixes for scores. This year, Boise State with 5 interceptions already through 4 games. Last year, we only had 7 total. We've also upped our sack game, had 5 sacks, 6 hurries last week, something that hadn't always been there earlier in the season. Last year, Boise State led the nation with 55 sacks. So I think the combination of you need to pressure Carr, and then obviously you need to be able to cover on the back end. If the guys play as well as they did against Appalachian State, that should be good enough. But Notre Dame's a different animal. A lot of tall, a lot of good receivers, athletic guys, and I think Carr has gotten better as the season's gone along.
Well, and also the defensive line is going to have a challenge trying to get pressure on C.J. Carr, but also really trying to slow down this run game that Notre Dame has in Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. How do you like that matchup? Is it possible for them to slow them down?
Well, I don't like that matchup, just to be frank. But, of course, our D-line's played great this year. I think that was kind of the one question mark, I think, coming into this season on our defense was defensive line play. But I think they've played really well. They've allowed our linebackers to roam free a little bit. And so it's going to be important, I think, just to kind of plug those holes, trying to get Notre Dame's offensive line on different levels. When I look at Notre Dame, they're not really weak in any spots. But if there is one kind of spot where they can maybe be better, it's probably offensive line. And for me, when I watched the Miami game, your guys' opening game of the season, I know Miami's got one of the best defensive lines in the country, and so that created issues for them. And so I hope Boise State's defensive line can kind of be similar almost to Miami was in game 1, of course, if you're rooting for Boise State.
All right, Bob, just to wrap us up here, taking a look at this matchup, Notre Dame, a big favorite coming in. What has to happen for Boise State to pull off the upset here at Notre Dame Stadium?
Well, I think Boise State has to shut off the big plays for Notre Dame. I think, you looked at last week against Arkansas. I think they scored the first 6 times they had the ball and didn't punt all day. So I think they need to try to make it as difficult as possible. And then on the flip side, when they get the ball, they have to cash in on their opportunities. And if they can maybe slow the game down where time of possession becomes a factor, you keep Notre Dame's offense off the field by possessing the ball yourself. But Boise State, when they get in the red zone, you're going to have to score touchdowns, I think, to beat Notre Dame. I don't know, Pete, if it's a game where a high-scoring game is better than for Boise State or not, but I think our offense is going to have to score.
Yeah, in my opinion, a shootout does not favor Boise State at all. I think Boise State's best chance of winning this game is really being efficient, running the football, protecting the rock, don't have any turnovers offensively, try to get some defensively, and try to win that time of possession battle. Because to Bob's point, the more you keep Notre Dame's high-powered offense on the sideline, I think better for Boise State.
Well, Bob Behler and Pete Cavender, the radio play-by-play and color analyst for the Broncos today, thank you both so much for joining us and allowing us to be in your radio booth. I hope you have a great broadcast.